Hello, I'm Justice Jennifer Brunner of the Ohio Supreme Court, and thank you for joining me today so that I can talk to you about my platform in my campaign for Chief Justice of the Ohio Supreme Court in 2022. My campaign, first and foremost, is based on a vision for a justice system in Ohio that focuses on accountability, openness, fairness, and most of all, promotes access to justice. Already, as a justice on the state's highest court, I have been privileged to support bail reform for greater equality for Ohioans, to promote greater access to justice through technology initiatives that keep people safe and make remote participation even easier. I have joined initiatives to identify systemic racism in the criminal justice system. And as I watched in horror in 2020 with the murder of George Floyd, I knew that running for the Supreme Court was the right thing to do. And as I've worked with Chief Justice O'Connor on many of her very worthwhile initiatives, I know that we're on the path to starting to do that, but that so much more needs to be done in the future. And I want to be leading that ship to make it move in the direction that it will improve the quality of our criminal justice system throughout Ohio. Already on the court, we have made it easier for transgendered individuals who need safe access to change their birth certificates to help support a quality of life that many of us take for granted. Well, Chief Justice, people think it's just another seat on the Ohio Supreme Court, but it's so much more. There are over 200 employees just in the Supreme Court, and there are over 600 courts in the state of Ohio that operate under the rules of the Ohio Supreme Court and under the leadership of the Chief Justice. So whoever is running for Chief Justice, it's ideal to have experience managing a statewide office. I served as Secretary of State from 2007 to 2011, and like Chief Justice O'Connor, I do have experience managing a statewide office. That office, the Secretary of State, also included similar experience to what will be needed to manage all of the courts of the state under the operation of the Supreme Court, and that is supervising local government activities in every single county. As Secretary of State, that's something I did every day. I've also served at all three levels of the judiciary in Ohio: trial court, appellate court, and Ohio Supreme Court, with nearly 12 years of experience already in the judicial system. And over all my years of public service, and there have been many, I have the simple philosophy that courts belong to the people. We want engaged judges who understand and live every day that fairness, equality, and respect for all people is paramount in what we do. Simply, when one person is helped, many benefit. Now, I've really enjoyed working with Justice O'Connor, Chief Justice O'Connor, even in the short time that we've been working together. I'm impressed with her impressive accomplishments, and I plan to use those as a springboard to further advance those and to promote new initiatives. Let's talk about some of those new initiatives. First of all, I want a task force that will work to establish a permanent commission on fairness and equality in Ohio courts. More than 20 years ago, the Ohio Supreme Court established the Ohio Commission on Racial Fairness, and this drew members from the courts, the bar, law enforcement, clergy, academia, and the community. In 1999, they issued a report that recommended ways to address pretrial and sentencing transparency and accountability. Today, many of those recommendations remain unfulfilled or unaddressed, and new issues obviously have emerged. So I want to re-examine this issue and create a permanent task force that will allow us to do what we stand for as courts, which is to promote fairness, equality, and respect. We will examine every facet of Ohio's criminal justice system and identify and create solutions for systemic problems that result in unequal treatment of protected classes of individuals in the criminal justice system. In addition to that, the criminal sentencing database is something that we have been working on in the Ohio Supreme Court for some time now. It's in the pilot project status, but what we need is reliable data so that we can see whether judges mean to do it or not. They might be looking at their personal biases or letting them affect how they look at a person before them. So we don't want just anecdotal examples. We want data on pretrial and sentencing practices that will relate to demographic characteristics of Ohioans in the state's criminal justice system. It will identify trends, draw comparisons in a standardized format for similar types of crime, criminal records, and other sentencing factors, and categories that include race, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, and if known, ethnic background and religion. We also want a uniform sentencing entry for the state's trial court judges, which will make it easier to collect this data. So continued development and completion of this statewide database and related projects is going to be a top priority of my administration. Now, specialized dockets, these are near and dear to my heart. Back in 2004, I started the Adult Felony Drug Court in Franklin County, known as the TIES program, which stands for Treatment is Essential to Success. Ohio is a national leader in specialized dockets. These are sometimes called problem-solving courts, whether it's veterans courts, drug courts, mental health courts, a combination of these, domestic violence courts. But where we are in Ohio is we need to be at a point where we are collecting data, doing evaluation, so that we can make sure that these courts are keeping up with the needs of people in these courts. Technology for the courts is essential. I remember when I started the TIES program in Common Pleas Court in Franklin County, one of the first things I had to do was work with the technology department in my court so that we knew how to collect the data from our treatment providers and communicate in a way that was effective so that the right hand knew what the left hand is doing. Ohio is so diverse. And I've seen it when I spent the time in the pandemic at my farmhouse. There's a real difference in resources, whether it's internet connectivity or the strength of internet, or just the funding that's available through many of the county commissioners for some of these trial courts who really need to provide services remotely and in person to a variety of people. I've heard many complaints from the trial bar about how slow things are to get their trials since COVID. Technology can alleviate this and can improve this, and I will work to improve that and build on what Chief Justice O'Connor did for the delivery of local court services and for citizens' equal access to justice. Now, campaign and judicial integrity. Right now, we're in the middle of a bribery scandal involving the state's largest utility, and the current leadership of the executive and legislative branches is roiling state government. I pledged that I will not accept campaign contributions from any publicly regulated utility in the state. So I don't want the contributions from these utilities. Frankly, I've never received them, and I don't plan to accept them. Public education about the law. It is essential. When we looked at January 6th, I think there was it was horrifying to so many Americans. But I also think that there's a basic lack of understanding about the role that government plays in keeping our democracy and what our democracy means to us. Many young people have service requirements before they even leave high school, and they want to give something back. One of the ways that they can do that is to understand our democracy, understand how they can fit in, how they can do their part, because government works better when citizens participate. And this is something that the Supreme Court is already having underway with our Visitor Education Center. But I also know that the State Bar Association's Center for Law-Related Education has a wonderful program that the court funds, and I plan to continue and expand the support of those public education programs that are aimed at informing young people and government about the work of Ohio's courts and democracy in general. Now, bail reform is something that's underway. I supported Chief Justice O'Connor's efforts that resulted in the Supreme Court changing the rules governing bail, bond, and pretrial release in criminal cases. Under our 2020 rule change that we adopted in 2021, courts now must use the least restrictive bond restrictions and the least amount of monetary bail to secure the defendant's appearance. I experienced this as a trial court judge, and there's more that we can do to prevent what happens to someone when they're out on bond, so that they can be successful if they're given the opportunity for community control, which people often look at as probation, not having to go to prison. We can work with the localities and work collaboratively with people in our communities under the leadership of the Supreme Court for reforms that promote good behavior in the community and keep the community safe. Conditions of bond could be to actually participate in collaborated programs that include continued employment, drug testing, innovations that promote productive and therapeutically supported behavior while people are awaiting trial or post-trial hearings. I will create a task force to develop these types of pretrial programs for people out on bail. And these could even be in, especially the large centers where people can go to actually spend their time, work on drug pretreatment, access basic services, start to perform community service opportunities, and be prepared for drug and alcohol treatment. The goal would be to use this successful community supervision as a diversion to incarceration when possible. And this, of course, saves our taxpayers money in the state of Ohio and improves the outcomes in terms of reducing recidivism. Already, the Chief Justice has empowered an Ohio Supreme Court task force on wrongful convictions. This would analyze current practices and recommend improvements to further the standards of justice. We have so many people who are incarcerated now where there are real questions about what happened in their trial. There are groups that work on this, such as the Innocence Project based in Cincinnati, and this kind of an approach where the court is involved and says, what can we do? What can we do to assist the trial courts when motions come back to look on post-conviction at whether or not that conviction actually had the integrity that's required for due process? So I will actively promote and support the success and operation and completion of this work so that we can achieve justice for people as they perceive justice should be attained. The chief has also started a regional judicial opioid initiative, or participated in that. This is an 8-state region that includes Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, North Carolina, Tennessee, and West Virginia. And together, these states are working to collaboratively look across disciplines to speed up responses by state courts, children's services, criminal justice, and treatment systems. I think we know and we hear so often how bad the opioid problem is in Ohio, and these particular states are experiencing it as well. But more than 23,700 Ohioans have died between 2010 and 2019 from just prescription opioid overdoses. This does not include the non-prescription opioids. Now, with Ohio being close to reaching a settlement with the 4 top opioid manufacturers for an $808 million payment to Ohio, I will collaborate with other state leaders so that Ohio's judicial and legal communities can provide their expertise toward meaningful use of these funds. So many times, people with a drug problem end up in the criminal justice system. They were either strung out when they did what they did, or they did what they did to get money to buy the drugs. So courts are a pivotal partner in this effort. Now, you may remember in 2020, maybe not, but things got pretty intense. And a judge in Franklin County Common Pleas Court rendered a decision on drop boxes at boards of elections. At that point in time, the Ohio Republican Party came out and said, this judge is all wet, all wrong. And it was frankly disrespectful to the judge. And the Chief Justice, Maureen O'Connor, same party as the Ohio Republican Party, defended the judicial independence of the judiciary and basically said, stand down. This judge did what he was required to do, independent, objective, and I will do the same thing. It will not matter to me whether somebody is a Democrat or a Republican. My job is to protect the rule of law so that people in Ohio have confidence in their system. When I served as Secretary of State, I supervised boards of elections of 2 Democrats, 2 Republicans at every board of elections. Sometimes I broke tie votes in favor of the Democrats. Sometimes I broke them in favor of the Republicans. There were times when people were not happy with me at all, but I did what I thought was right, which ended up earning me a John F. Kennedy Profile and Courage Award. And having been the first Ohio recipient to receive it, I understand that that is a role that I will play until the day I die, so that I uphold the sanctity and the integrity of public service, but also the respect that I have for the rule of law, for government, and for ensuring that people truly are treated with fairness, equality, and respect from our Ohio judicial system. I want to thank you for being with me here today. Uh, this is a privilege to serve on the Ohio Supreme Court. It is a privilege to be a public servant in the state of Ohio. I have traveled to all 88 counties of the state of Ohio. I feel that I know the qualities of the people of Ohio. They are good people who work hard times. In spite of that, they work harder anyways. Whether you're in an urban area or a rural area, please know that I understand that what the judiciary does affects you in your everyday life. I will be working on this campaign tirelessly and working to visit all 88 counties, and in the process, running a campaign that will show you the kind of Chief Justice that I will be in after the 2022 election, if you see fit to put me in that office. Thank you so much for tuning in today, and God bless. Take care.